I don't know. You're not right. Yeah. There we go.
Next, I will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here one more or the other. Mother, are you going to call the roll?
Yes, Judge. The Honorable Sharon Keller.
Here.
Mr. Alex Bunnan.
Here.
The Honorable Valerie Covey. The Honorable Brandon Creighton. The Honorable Richard Evans.
Here.
Mr. Jay Cohen.
Here.
The Honorable Nathan Head. The Honorable Missy Maderi.
Here.
The Honorable Joe Moody. The Honorable Reggie Smith.
On there. Second here.
He's here.
Was here just a second.
He's just not on screen, but he's unmuted. The Honorable Reggie Smith. Okay. The Honorable Sherry Raddick.
Here.
The Honorable Vivian Torres.
Here.
The Honorable John Whitmire. Oh, until he comes in,
You don't
we don't have quorum. Oh, no, sorry, we do. Absolutely, we do.
Thank you.
Judge, we have quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the August 23rd, 2023 meeting?
Don't move.
Wait a second. I second. Session. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. I think we passed. Did somebody say something?
No, I was saying I.
Oh. Okay. Our new board member, Jay Cohen, who was appointed by Governor Abbott. Mr. Cohen is a Houston attorney in private practice since 2009, focusing on criminal defense and serious injury cases. He represents clients in Harris, Fort Bend, Montgomery, Galveston, and surrounding counties. He was born and raised in Houston, graduating from SMU with a Bachelor of Business Administration in 2005 and a law degree from South Texas College of Law. Welcome to TIDC.
Thank you.
We hope you find us rewarding for that.
Thank you, Judge. I wanted to start things off by updating the board on some changes in staff. We have a new policy analyst who will be coming on board.
Scott, this is Reggie Smith. Can I interrupt you just a second?
Yes, yes.
I'm
Reggie.
so sorry. I just want to make sure that I'm counted as present.
Yes,
I didn't know if you noticed that or not. Did you?
yes.
Okay, great.
But
Yeah,
thanks for
excuse me.
speaking, is stating it for the record.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm so sorry, Scott.
That's all right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Representative Smith. So, yeah, I just want to let y'all know about some staff changes. We have a new senior policy analyst who is going to be coming on board January 2nd. Her name is Natalie Corvington, excuse me. She has extensive experience as a public defender. She also worked at the Office of Parental Representation here in Travis County, so has, both experience in criminal as well as family representation law. She is going to be reporting to Crystal Left-Pignon, who is directing our family representation program and helping Crystal build that program up further. She will also be working with the policy monitoring team. So looking forward to Natalie coming on board in January. Bill Cox has been named as the new Director of Public Defense Improvement, taking over my old position. Congratulations, Bill. In terms of some highlights with TIDC, as you know, y'all have asked us to form a salary work group to look at requests for salary increases in salary levels through our grant applications. The work group met on October 12th, and Dr. Sarah Gamble is going to discuss that further during her report. You may also recall that the legislature directed TIDC to do a rural public defense needs assessment as part of a budget rider. And we have begun that process. There's a survey out in the field right now. There's a link in the board book, and Dr. Sarah Gamble will also report further on that. Our investigator report, you received some preliminary results from that, a presentation back in March. The final report has been approved by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and there's a link there in the board book regarding that research and its final findings. We had our indigent defense workshop on October 25th and 26th. We had 76 attendees from various counties around the state. I thought it was a great success, and we had some great reviews from that. A link to the full agenda is in the board book. And on Operation Lone Star, a few updates there. The Lone Star Defender's Office has been formed. You may recall that in previous grants, the Lubbock Private Defender's Office has told us they would basically like to get out of the work on Operation Lone Star because it has gotten too big for their organization. So they are forming a separate nonprofit, the Lone Star Defender's Office, that has been formed, and there's some grant modification issues that we'll discuss later on that. There's a new Operation Lone Star Public Defender Office that has been formed in Maverick County, and that's being formed by Texas Rio Grande Public Defender, formerly Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid. They have hired 2 attorneys. They're looking to hire more, but they have started taking felony appointments. And then finally, just wanted to let you know that arrests have been steady over the past quarter, and we have not run into any capacity issues in terms of appointing counsel on Operation Lone Star. And so that's it for my report.
Any questions? Hold the stop. Dr. Gamble. Research and data website update.
Yes, good morning. I have 3 things to report on. Some of them Scott has alluded to, like a cat out of the bag already. But the first is the Rural Defense Needs Assessment that is being conducted by the Public Policy Research Institute at A&M. They launched their start at the ID workshop, and it was a great way for them to connect with stakeholders. They had a table there, able to kind of inform folks what was going on. And they've been spreading the word. We've been spreading the word. You'll see in this report, the word is getting spread also in the upcoming issue of County Progress that goes out to judges and commissioners. They're doing a great job of just letting folks know we want to hear from them. They have to date, this has been updated since I last wrote this, they have over 200 survey respondents. And those are online surveys, which this QR code has, which you're welcome to go and give your 2 cents or just look at it. And then they're conducting a follow-up. The last question in the survey is, would you like to participate in a qualitative survey? They have to date 61 volunteers, which that is fantastic, a lot of time. So they hope this will all end in February. They hope to be able to schedule all those 61 qualitative interviews in their rural places throughout the state. So it's going very well. As far as the website updates, most of you know we have 2 brand new forms that are on our new website, and we're very excited about it. Again, partnered with PPRI to do the web development, but our team took the time to go through these 2 forms, the Family Protection Representation Plan and the Attorney Practice Form. And those are live on our new website collecting data. The first year of reporting is this year. And so we're excited about those efforts. And we are continuing to just review all of our mandated forms one by one. The next one up is the indigent defense expenditure reports. And we are working on a web draft for that. And then the last thing to report is the salary work group. As Scott alluded to, we met on the 12th of October. We had 19 virtual attendees, county judges, public offenders, auditors, commissioners, researchers. And this was to just give a brief overview of our goals for the work group, collect some feedback, and we got some really valuable feedback, which helped us prepare a two products to go out this next week. Is a salary survey, which is an online survey that all public defender and MAC directors will receive and fill in, ask them descriptive information about their office, and ask them policy questions, and ask them perception questions about certain policies. Does this one make more of a difference in retention, do you think? Things like that. So that will be going out next week. Right now, it's getting reviewed by some of the PD chiefs and MAC directors to get some feedback to just make sure what we're asking will resonate and get us informative answers. And then in addition to that survey, we have a worksheet going out to all the PD offices where they will fill in their staffing information so that we can understand salaries, both for vacant positions and employed positions throughout the office for attorneys, staff, otherwise as well. We hope to conclude that in January so that we can then have time to analyze all of this, bring it back to the work group, and then bring it to the board for the next board meetings. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Good question. Then let's move along to Judge Madera, Ransom report.
Thank you, Judge Keller. Guys, I feel like it's been a million years since we talked about these that we left pending to the December meeting, but I'm going to turn that over to Edwin at this meeting.
Sure. So what we'll start with, Joel has prepared on page 11 of your meeting materials, an introductory summary of our data that we collected through the Indigent Defense Expenditure.
Thank you, Michael. That's fine. So every year, auditors and treasurers have to report to TIDC various financial statistics. They have to report the amount that was spent on court appointments and criminal and juvenile delinquency cases. And they also have to report how many cases were disposed and to whom those payments were made. This does not include state payments to Operation Lone Star, and Edwin will follow up on this. So this is like 95% of state spending, but it is not the entire thing. This is all preliminary. So as of November 21st, 241 of the 254 counties had submitted their reports. We've gotten a couple more to come in, and staff are now going through a desk review where we do a high level examination to make sure that what this county has reported appears to be reliable. And if there's some issues, we give them a call or an email to get them to look at the matter and to maybe resubmit the report. Right now, it looks like there's been a little bit more than $400 million in county spending. After all of our reports are complete, this figure will probably be between $408 and $415 million. We don't know exactly. This is a large increase over last year's $347 million. And pre-COVID levels in 2019 were 300 million. So this is a very large jump in spending. Now, it came across basically every county in Texas. There were, I think, 62 counties that had more than a 50% increase since 2019. But large counties tended to dominate this. If you just in raw dollar terms, the top 4 counties in increased spending over 2019 accounted for a little more than 70 million of the $100 and some million increase. And I don't know if there are any questions, but this is preliminary data, and we will report again in March after hopefully all the reports are complete.
Good question. I may have asked it before, but I don't remember. Do you have any idea about Harris County and $2.48 million? Which I asked Mr. Bunn.
Well, that would be part of it was there were private attorneys that were paid a lot of money. Mr. Bunnan, do you have some more to say?
Some of that's my office. Significant amount of it is my office. But yeah, we had the spending for the private bar went up significantly. The judges raised the caps, hourly rates, so it went up quite a bit.
I will say that I was just at another meeting where I saw some statistics on, which I'm sure Scott provided in the first place, on percentages of appointments, and Harris County is doing really well. Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. So, as Joel mentioned, the Indigent Defense Expenditure Report is a report from county auditors to us, or treasurers for smaller counties, to so that we can see how much is being spent on indigent defense, but it does not capture all of the spending that's been going on related to Operation Lone Star Defense. So if you turn to page 12, just have a comprehensive list of all of the disbursements of funds directly from TIDC that supported Operation Lone Star Defense. In 2022, that figure was just shy of 11 million. In 2023, it was about 10.1 million. So total for the biennium of 21.1 million. One thing to note here is that a large number of appointments that were made to private attorneys for Operation Lone Star cases are still pending. Those vouchers haven't come in and been processed. So this number is going to continue to go up. And then, of course, our budget for Operation Lone Star Defense for the current biennium that we've entered is significantly higher for a number of reasons, including that there are many more felony cases as opposed to initially misdemeanor cases. Many of those felonies have to be adjudicated in person, so those costs have increased. And so we expect the cost for Operation Lone Star in the current biennium to be much higher than what's reflected in the last couple of years. So I just wanted to add that to give a more comprehensive picture. In addition to county spending, this is a big part of what's going on out there. With that, any questions about that before we move on to our budget updates? Sharon, if not, Sharon will get us started on page 13 of the meeting book with an overview of the fair defense account revenue.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So on page 13, this is just a comparison of our revenue flow. So we have on the sheet, we have fiscal year 22, fiscal year 23, and of course the fiscal year that we are in now, which is 24. And it just shows what we've collected so far. The year, you know, we have 4 quarters. And so of course, the third month of each quarter is when we have our largest amount of revenue coming in on the court cost collection. And if you go down to the second little column down at the bottom, it shows from September through November, then you can see looks like we're pretty much right on trend for the first 3 quarters based off of 22, 23, and then our total for 24. So if you want to go into more detail, that is pretty much it for as our revenue flow as it comes in. So it's like we're kind of back on track to where we were before. You know, we had some decreases during COVID and whatnot, but like we're back on trend. Thank you.
And any questions? I'm going to talk a little bit more about revenue. One thing I want to note here is that on the left, the revenue associated with the jury service fund, what we refer to as juror pay, we haven't been getting that in the past couple of years. We used to get about $6 million a year from that stream of revenue. We were still working with the comptroller to get what was due to us, which was a relatively small amount of what's reflected as $384,000 for FY21. We've been going back and forth with folks over there. There was some turnover and a lot of confusion. I think we've made substantial progress in tracking that money down, and it actually may be a much larger figure than that. But there's still a lot of investigation that the accountants are going through. So we expect some additional revenue to come in for jury service. Turning to page 14 and 15, the other budget updates, I just want to take a moment to update you. Those of you who were at the last meeting will recall that in August, I shared the information regarding a shortfall in fair defense account revenue that created the need to use some of our 2024 appropriations to finish up final payments on 2022 and 2023 grants. And this was unexpected. We didn't, it wasn't brought to our attention until right a few days before the August meeting that we had this revenue shortfall. We were aware that our revenue had in some instances not come in as anticipated, particularly related to the jury service fee revenue stream that we were appropriated. But when we looked at the fund balance, the overall fund balance of the fair defense account, it appeared that there was sufficient money in there to cover our appropriated amounts. So a few days before the August meeting, the comptroller rather, notified us that several $1 million appeared to be available in the Fair Defense account to support TIDC's appropriation could not be used by TIDC. The reason was that TIDC used to have exclusive access to the Fair Defense account fund. When the Office of Capital and Forensic Writs was created a few years ago, that agency was also funded out of this dedicated GRD fund. At that time, it was not communicated to TIDC or OCA that some positive balances that appeared in the fund were being offset by negative numbers in a different screen of the accounting system that reflected the budget needs for OCFW as well as employee benefits expenses. So that created a apparent money when in fact there wasn't money available to us. So as a result, to address that cash flow issue, we have set aside in our FY24 budget some funds to cover the remaining grant payments from the previous budget years. And I'll identify that on page 15 in a minute. But I just want to give you an update that we had hoped when we got this news that it was some kind of miscommunication. In fact, it wasn't a miscommunication. Comptroller has confirmed that those funds we thought were available to us were not. And it was just a confusion in the way the accounting system is showing those reserved funds for the other agency that caused confusion. So the amount was about $6.5 million. But again, because of our 2024-25 appropriations, we're able to address the cash flow issue without any significant disruption in our operation. Okay, so if we look at page 14, we just have a summary of remaining cash in the previous budget years and remaining grant obligations, pending grant obligations from the previous budget years. It looks like about, let's see, so about 6.8 million for FY24 grants still remain pending, and about just under $1 million from FY22 that remain pending. When we look at the applying all the available cash to those obligations. So that's how we come up with the number of about 6.7 million. We go to page 15 and look at the FY24 budget column. So the top part of that column shows the various types of revenue that we've been appropriated for this biennium, for this budget year. And then the very first budget item is earmarked as a carry forward grant obligations from FY22 and FY23, so 6.775. So that number is likely to go down as grants close out and don't fully draw down their awarded amounts. But again, just to make sure that we don't get ahead of ourselves, we're earmarking those funds to cover remaining obligations.
Is appropriated revenue non-OLS fund 0001?
So 00. That's general revenue, yeah. So historically, TIDC has been funded out of the general revenue dedicated Fair Defense account. In recent years, particularly with OLS, they've added some regular general revenue, which is not dependent on court cost collections or juror pay or anything else. It's just straight up appropriations from the legislature.
Thank you.
So one of the pieces of good news for our budget is that a substantial amount of our budget is now general revenue, which gives us a little more predictability as opposed to having to kind of watch how much is flowing in so closely. We still have to watch it.
I'm not sure that gives us more predictability because it's going to go away every.
Well, politically, I guess that's true. There's some political unpredictability, and once the money is appropriated, we know it's there.
Yeah,
and that's a little more. It's a little easier for us to manage the budget that way. But yes, the legislature could always make different decisions. So you see the amounts in green on both the 2024 column and the projected 2025 column. I've highlighted those just to show you that we are, even taking account of the cash flow challenge, we are still in the positive with this year. And this takes into account not only our current grant obligations, but also the recommended grants. We have a small handful of grants that are pending and we're presenting today for your approval. If you all approve what has been presented, and this is the fourth line down on the budget section, I'm sorry, fourth row down, pending improvement grants and modifications. recommended December 2023. If you all approve all the staff recommendations regarding funding, we're still in the green, taking account of the cash flow issue for 2024. And then if you look at the 2025 projections, we are still in the green by at least 3.3 million. So that's just to reinforce the fact that we do have the available funds to take action on the recommendations today if the board is willing. So let me pause there and ask if there are any questions before I move on.
I have a question just about the juror pay. What happened with that?
So the jury service, so the way that the legislature provided that funding stream to us, there is a court cost that is paid by defendants that goes into the jury service fund to pay jurors for their service. When the way that the legislation was written, when the amounts in that fund exceed $10 million, the excess was directed to TIDC, to the Fair Defense Account. A few years ago, the legislature did a comprehensive revamp of how court cost collections were collected, and the formulas were changed. And I believe that, we were anticipating that, like our regular court cost revenue, the juror pay component would recover after COVID settled down and we got back into more normal court operations. But it never recovered. And so it's hard to know exactly why, except that it's possible that when the formulas were revisited, they aimed for a $10 million target and there just hasn't been any excess.
Okay,
there.
so it could potentially come back.
It is still on the books,
Okay.
but it's unlikely because we've been 2 years in a row when none of that revenue has come in.
Okay.
So it is a very unusual revenue stream for us. It always has been. And
I think the legislature, didn't you increase juror pay as well, the amount that jurors were going to be paid for jury service? And I believe that will take even more money out of that fund, which makes it less likely for us to get there being any excess left over. Yes.
that's right. And this whole issue of the jury service fee portion of our revenue kind of drying up on us is reflected in our new budget, which has in part swapped out what we were supposed to get from that source for regular general revenue. So you see now that we have substantial, each year we have about 19.5 million in general revenue that's been appropriated to us, in part because that revenue source from jury pay dried up. It's just not been available to us. So at least the legislature recognized that was an issue and tried to address it in that way. Any other questions regarding the budget? Moving on to page 16 of your meeting materials, Doriana will cover the formula grant awards because Doriana?
Thank you, Aaron. So at the August commission meeting, the board adopted the FY24 formula grant request for application with no changes to the formula, and we budgeted $17.5 million for the program. The formula to determine award amounts is in the middle of your page, and award amounts will be determined upon completion of desk reviews of the FY23 IDER that's happening right now. And if there aren't any questions about that, we do have a staff recommendation, and it is motion number 2, and I'm happy to read it. Is there a motion to award $17.5 million in FY 2024 formula grants to counties according to the policy published in the FY 2024 formula grants RFA on page 16?
So moved.
There's a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hey, by the way, guys, this is Commissioner Covey. I have joined the meeting. I joined back when we were discussing the budget, but anyway, I am voting on that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if we could please turn to page 17, I'm going to give a quick update on our special conditions. So when formula grants are awarded, special conditions are placed on awards to counties that are not in compliance with plan, reporting, and grant requirements. The status of special conditions on FY23 formula grants as of December 6th. There are actually 18 counties that have not submitted their reports to the Texas Judicial Council / Office of Court Administration. TIDC staff and judicial information staff have been in contact with the following counties. And since we've made these meeting materials, Culberson and Panola have cleared their special conditions. And I believe all counties have been notified and they're working on it. And if we can turn to page 18, I will give a preliminary update on special conditions for the FY 24 formula grant. So the status of special conditions on FY 24, as of this morning, 3 counties have not submitted their IDER and 10 counties reports are still in progress. 67 counties have outstanding resolutions or have not finalized their online application, and I plan to send out reminders for that about mid-month. 62 counties have plans that do not fully comply with TIDC plan requirements based on the Fair Defense Act, and I believe the policy team is going to touch on that later. And over 140 counties have not submitted their judicial council and OCA report. However, that is preliminary and sent this out about 3 days after their last report was due, and we expect for those numbers to go down.
No question. There's 62 counties have not, have plans that do not fully comply with our plan requirement. Don't they usually just use what they had before and move it over, update the date or something? How can you have 62 counties there?
Judge, they have to actually approve it. And
Oh,
this is
so it might just
more,
be technical.
yeah, this is more in line. See, we expect maybe by the end of the calendar year, that'll probably be in the single digit numbers. And then those remaining few, if there is a grant
Okay.
condition, we'll
They
get
haven't
it.
like changed the substance of it so much.
Most-
They just haven't- Okay. good,
That's
thanks.
correct. Yeah.
Some of these numbers are just part of our biennial cycle and it is early in the cycle, so we anticipate the vast majority being addressed quite.
Do you have any more questions? All right, Edwin?
Thank you, Juliana. I appreciate it. If we turn to page 19, we're ready to move into some of the grant requests that were pending for some time as we let the dust settle on our budget issues that I was speaking about a few moments ago. I think the dust is settled and we're in good shape to finally move some of these forward. On page 19, we have a request from Burnett County for a additional mental health social worker to join the North Hill Country Regional Public Defender. I'm sorry.
In our book, yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at 19. Okay, maybe there was some changes.
Yeah, I was wondering why she was calling on a different page too. Our books are different.
I apologize. Well, it's the
Okay.
next page
Yeah.
that so to avoid any confusion. So I'm speaking now about the Burnett County grant request. This is for the North Hill Country Regional Public Defender Office. They cover 3 counties up in the Burnett, I believe it's Burnett, Llano, and Blanco County. They do have a mental health social worker that's been very effective in their program. However, in covering the 3 county area, definitely identified a need for additional capacity to work more closely with defendants having mental health challenges that are appointed to the office. We had some questions from our external grant review committee that were more than sufficiently addressed, and we followed up with them. And so we do have a staff recommendation to award Burnett County a 24 improvement grant for $60,072 to support the additional mental health social worker for their public defender. And that's motion number 3.
I'm gonna read it exactly. Is there a motion to award Burnett County an additional an FY 24 improvement grant of $16,072 for the North Hill Country Regional Public Defender additional mental health social worker?
I'll make that motion.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I just should mention that does, of course, qualify for the legislature's direction to us to use at least $2.5 million per year for specialized public defender or managed assigned counsel programs serving defendants with mental health challenges. That goes into that category. So we are directed by the ledge to fund a number of these types of programs, and that's going to go into that column.
Is there a breakdown of where that's going?
In terms of,
I mean, well, just all of these were out of that amount.
so I could certainly get that for you. We have, and
That'd be great.
most of the $2.5 million has already been awarded out.
Okay.
But we do have some available funds that this is being drawn from, but I could certainly provide that detail for you. I believe about 4 pages hence, depending on which version of the book you have. It's 24 for me. It's a request from Galveston County. Several years ago, the commission awarded Galveston County a grant to create the Mental Health Public Defender Office. This is a dedicated office specifically for clients with mental health challenges. The office has been very successful. The caseloads have been creeping up, which is really a sign of success and the confidence that the judiciary has in the office and pointing more and more cases. And clearly they've reached the point where they need to expand. So the request is for an additional 2 staff people, a mental health caseworker and an additional assistant public defender to join the office. And we have a recommendation from the staff to award a grant of $122,611. You make that happen. That's motion number 4.
And I just want to mention for our new member, this is a typical way that we do, so we just go from 80-20 split that decreases over the years, so that's what we're doing. Is there a motion of everyone?
I'll be happy to read them back in Judge. I'm sorry. So motion number 4 is to award Galveston County an FY 2024 improvement grant of $122,611 to expand the mental health public defenders.
Your motion?
So moved.
Your second? Any discussion?
I have a question. What, can you break down those 2 salaries for me for the assistant public defender and then the mental health?
Yeah. So that would be
It might be in here.
29, I believe.
24.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I got it. I see it there.
Let me see if I can.
I got it already. You're good.
All right. So without any additional questions, we can move on to the.
Yeah, what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
All in favor? Did we?
We got a first and a second. No, but we do have a first and a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you all. So the next item is a request from Dallas County, also related to mental health defender program. The Dallas County has a mental health division of the public defender office, and they have requested an additional 8 staff, 4 attorneys and 4 mental health caseworkers to expand that operation. 2 of those attorneys and 2 caseworkers will be dedicated specifically to focusing on clients who are in the process, kind of going back and forth from the competency restoration process and making sure that those cases do not languish, those defendants do not languish through that transition. And they had a very compelling case for how the additional staff would ensure the better success for those defendants. And then also just in general expansion requests for the other staff. So as you'll see, the recommendation here is to award Dallas County basically half of what they requested 8 staff. We're recommending that we approve 4 staff members, 2 attorneys and 2 caseworkers. So the chart at the top reflects their request. The chart at the bottom reflects the staff recommendation. And we do have a staff recommendation to award them a grant of $135,734. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
With Dallas's history of having problems with their case caps, is anything built into this grant to ensure these lawyers don't be overloaded?
So there is a grant condition for any funded positions that they have to follow TIDC caseload guidelines. The also a separate grant that we have to Dallas County that you may remember specifically for additional staff in their misdemeanor division has allowed them to cut their misdemeanor caseloads in half on the misdemeanor division. They're still too high. They're still too high, but we think it's a big step forward, and it's gotten them at least on the path to getting to where they need to be. So, but yeah, good question, and yes, we would require them to be in line with the TIDC guidelines. Yes, that's standard there.
Based on the caps, have they demonstrated the need for the full amount, or is it?
So the reason that we are, I thank you for highlighting the fact that there's a gap between the proposal and the recommendation. The recommendation is really because of our available funds. And often when we are looking at our budget and how much we have to work with, we will propose something short of what was originally requested. So that's really what's driving this. I think that they can definitely use all 8 of the staff that they've requested. But if you go back to our budget sheet for 2024, we're getting kind of close. And so as I've told the folks at the county, at Public Defender, we can revisit it in the future if they still have the need and we have the funds.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion to award Dallas County an FY 2024 improvement grant of $335,734 for the Dallas County Public Defender Mental Health Division expansion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I have a question.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
So Dallas County's history has not been too stellar. So what happens if they don't comply? If we get in here, and we still have the same problems, do we take the money back?
What we would,
We've done a lot of improvement programs with them, and it hasn't been really successful, it looks like sometimes, so.
yeah, I think, so we require them to report caseloads to us as part of their grant reports every quarter, and we monitor those. And if they don't comply with the grant requirements, then we would stop the payments, basically. So they're aware of that. And I think that overall, the Dallas County Public Defender has had very high caseloads. We've known this, and that's why we've kind of worked with them to begin to address it. But certainly with in terms of using TIDC funds, they will be required and held to the requirement regarding reasonable caseloads, or their expenses won't be reimbursed under the program.
We have never stopped paying them even if they didn't comply, is that right? We threatened but never did it.
There's one county where we stopped, not Dallas, but there's one county where we stopped paying.
So yeah, the commission.
I'm talking about Dallas. That's
No.
all I'm talking about.
Yeah, we have not withheld funds from Dallas because they have stayed within the guidelines or the requirements of the grants that we've provided them. But if so the office has general issues, clearly the case, and we're aware of that. With the mental health division and with the use of these staff, they will have to operate within the TIDC guidelines to use our funds.
Okay, we'll see.
I'm happy to give you all a status report after they get up and running. We are monitoring that.
But they only have to follow our caseload guidelines for these particular funds, right? And the employees that they will be hiring with these funds from this improvement grant, not generally.
Right.
Right.
And their issues, I think, in the mental health division are not nearly as bad as they are in the other divisions in terms of caseloads that are very high. But that's correct.
When is the next most reasonable time for us to be given an update on how that's going forward? I mean, I don't want to burden us with reports that aren't helpful, but
yeah,
when can we expect something like that?
So, I mean, if we approve this award or you all approve this award today, they would be able to start hiring soon, start taking cases soon. And I would anticipate that they would certainly have some hires in place and we would have caseloads by the next board meeting, which will be in March. Okay. So I'd be happy to give you all an update of what we've learned and how it's going, given the issue, given the concerns about caseloads in that office in particular. I'd be happy to do that, as well as an update on the other grant that we've provided for their misdemeanor division, which has cut their caseload in half in the misdemeanor division. Admittedly, they still have some distance to go to get in line with our recognition.
Okay, thank you. The vote was aye. I don't know if I have to go back over it after discussion.
I don't think so, unless someone wants to reconsider it. So we did have a motion and okay. Thank you all. Next item is from Harris County regarding the statewide industry defense mentoring and training program, FIDL for short. And I'm going to turn it over to Bill Fox to lay this out. Bill.
Thank you, Edwin. Good morning, everyone.
Can I interrupt? Did we vote on Dallas?
Yeah.
Did we vote?
But
we discussed and
I don't. Yeah, let's
just get a revote on the motion to award the $335,734 to Dallas. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. FIDL is our mentoring and development program for new attorneys that we've been working with Harris County, the Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association, and Gideon's Promise. We have had 4 classes go through. The 3rd and 4th classes have had their initial 2-week core program and are in the returner process. However, we do not have funding in place at this point for the next iteration to bring in the 5th class. Because of that, and because of the need to get contracts in place with hotels, to recruit the class, to interview them, and then for those class members to keep clear their calendars for a 2-week program, we are seeking approval for an FY25 grant for the 5th iteration. One other item that will be taking place during this grant period is working very closely with Gideon's Promise and the Harris Public Defender's Office and TCDLA to get our path in place to migrate Fiddle from being a Gideon-led program to truly a Texas-led program, and keep building on the work we have done using our Texas faculty that has worked closely with the national faculty to present the Fiddle curriculum. And currently it's about a 50-50 split. We want to move toward having the majority Texas faculty while keeping some national faculty to maintain fidelity to the program and bring in the insights that come from having people practice in other jurisdictions and have additional ways to strengthen our attorneys. With the Fiddle program, we will have them go through a 2-week core program in October, and then following up in April with the returner weekend. And then under the budget you see projected out for FY 26 and 27, there would be 2 returner weekends, which are typically 2.5 days of instruction in the fall and spring of FY 26, and a final returner weekend for this class in the fall of FY 27. If there are any questions, we have a staff recommendation to award Harris County an FY 25 improvement grant in the amount of $293,334 for the Future Indigent Defenders statewide training and mentoring program, contingent upon receipt of Harris County Commissioners Court resolution authorizing the application.
Is there a motion?
I have a question real quick. Did you say how many people are going to be attending expected?
Thank you, Judge Raddick. I did not. There will be 30 members in this class, which is the number we had in our first, second, and third classes. Due to COVID cost increases, our fourth class had 18.
Thank you.
That's 30, is that what you said now?
Yes. Yes, Judge, there will be 30 for the 5th class, and we have also managed to slightly decrease the cost per student as we move into the 5th class.
And did Mr. Bennett say he was not participating? Or did you motion?
I can't participate.
That's what I thought.
So somebody else please make the motion.
Is there a motion? For the money for Fiddle. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Well, just.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So Alex, you're the program director on that then?
Well, I hold the
Or is
grant.
that a really fancy
The
title?
only way we can do this is if there's a county that can hold the grant. So I hold the grant. I do send a lot of students there. And I do work with TCDLA and the folks here and Gideon's Promise to make it work. But I wouldn't call myself the director of the program, no.
Okay.
And I don't, we might need an opinion whether Jake can vote on this, because he's from Harris County too.
I don't participate. I've never had a.
I know, but it's in the county.
Oh, okay.
You're listed as the program person.
Yeah.
Well, oh no, for program is that I'm the contact in the county.
Right.
I can speak to all of this. So Harris County is the grantee, and then the operation of contract with TCDLA and Gideon's Promise. But Harris County is basically managing it through the fiscal agent.
Right.
And so we don't have any direct grant relationship with TCDLA or Gideon's. Harris County has that. It's all going through Harris.
I could talk about it. Just in my experience, I know several people that have gone through it and they have phenomenal things to say about the program. And each and every one of them is doing really well, in the criminal defense bar.
Yeah, and I'm going to be sending staff, and if they, the slots are all over the state. So if they're not enough, I intend to pay out of pocket from our budget to send people to, so.
Okay, I think we are ready for a vote, unless there's any further discussion.
Can I ask Wesley, in terms of Mr. Cohen, his ability to vote on this?
Yeah, the conflict policy only applies to chief defenders of counties or judges of counties. So I think Mr. Cohen is free to vote on this. He's not conflicted. He's not a Harris County employee.
And motion carries.
Thank you all. Few pages, it's 46. There are a couple of grant modification requests that we'd like to give your approval on. The first one is from Culberson County. Culberson County is the host county for the Far West Texas Regional Public Defender Office. This is the program that serves Culberson, Brewster, Presidio, Depp Davis, and Hudspeth, that region immediately to the east of El Paso, Big Bend region. TIDC helped to found this office back in 2018 with sustainability grant funds. And at the program's inception, Brewster County made available some office space for the program to use at no cost to the program. However, from the very beginning of our grant to this office, they have noted that there was no line item for office space, but that there would eventually be a need for office space to be leased. So this was something that we were aware of from the beginning. Program's grown a lot, thanks to TIDC's grants. They've gone from 3 to 9 employees, and the current office space is not really adequate anyway. But Brewster County has notified all occupants of county-owned space who are not themselves county departments, including this kind of multi-county collaboration, as well as the adult probation was asked to vacate the county space they were in. Brewster County's made this kind of across-the-board notice to all occupants of county space that they need to be out by the end of the year or start paying rent. Given the fact that the program's grown so much and there's not enough office space, it's not sufficient any longer anyway. The office has identified space in Alpine, cost us $7,500 a month to rent sufficient offices. There's limited commercial real estate in that part of the state, and so this was the best option after reviewing all the options. And so in terms of funding this new expense for rent, the office has a few positions that have not been filled because it's very difficult to hire out there. And so they have some slack in their budget because of that they can use to cover the rental costs for the balance of this fiscal year, which take us all the way through September of 2024. So there's no impact on the current grant that's in place. They can just rearrange money to cover this newly incurred office space rent. However, for our future sustainability grants for the program, it will increase the need for funds in future years by the grant portion by $63,000 beginning in FY 2025. And so because it has impact on our grant commitments in the future, we've presented to you for approval. We do think it's clearly necessary and appropriate expense. And so we do have a staff recommendation to approve that budget modification. Any questions?
So you're going to use salary savings now, and then in 25 we're going to get hit, or have those other people been the salary savings that we have people already been hired, so we will not have those salary savings the next year?
So some of them have been hired, but there are still some vacancies. So it's possible that there was hopefully by
so you could come back and say we still have some salary savings.
It's possible, yes. I think the expectation though is that they are going to be able to fill those eventually.
Fill them out.
Okay. So, but that's correct. We would be seeing the budget impact for our grant in 2025.
Okay, is there a motion to approve Culberson County's budget modification request for the FY 24 Far West Texas Regional Public Defender Office grant number SGB 2403 to reallocate unspent salary and fringe benefit amounts to cover newly incurred office space rental costs?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Did you forget to love it?
Yeah.
I think we have, I apologize. I think we have them in different orders, so I'm sorry for the confusion. I will come back. I was going to take up Wichita County.
Okay.
You all see that one?
Yep.
Okay. So request from Wichita County, TIDC awarded Wichita County a 2024 grant for the Public Defender Mental Health Division back at the June meeting of this year, or 2023. The mental health public defender attorney position was originally budgeted, and the county's request was for a $70,000 budget for that attorney salary. They've posted internally and externally. They've tried to recruit. They've gone to a number of recruiting events. They are not getting bites. They're not getting applicants. They've requested that the chief defenders believes, I think correctly, that the salary was insufficient to attract qualified applicants. And so they're requesting to increase it to $85,000, which is an increase of $15,000. Because this program is in its first year of a 4-year grant, the grant reimbursement is 80%. So they were asking for an additional $12,000 from the commission in order to do this. And so that would increase the grant award by $12,000. I think that based on our work so far and our salary study, and even before that, that this is clearly too low of a salary to attract a qualified attorney, particularly one with the ability to work with those more challenging clients. And so we do have a recommendation to approve this modification. It was, the original salary was just based on county's request. It wasn't a TIDC recommendation.
How does it compare to the DA's salary there?
That is a good question.
Because we've always kind of mirrored those. The second concern, there's really twofold here. One, how, we're setting up the commissioners in that county to get, the DA's office to come back and ask for increases, one. And then the second thing is, how does it affect, as my mom would say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So in other words, all the other mental health public defender's office, if we are in at 70 or 72 or whatever we're in, does that, I don't want Nueces and all those other counties to come back and say, we need more money at that time. So does that affect that at all?
Well, to the first part of your question, all requests like this have to be approved by the county judge, the chief budget officer of the county. And so this has been vetted by the commissioners, and the county judge has given it their blessing.
And they're not worried about the DA's office coming back because we don't have a comparative on that.
Yeah, I think that in the case of Wichita County, I don't think that there is parity with the DA's office. It is a longstanding office, the office that's been in place for a number of years. I couldn't tell you when they were founded, but it's been there a long time. And I believe that their public defenders are paid less than the prosecutors in the jurisdiction.
That is my recollection, yes, from even, I think it came up at the salary work group that that they did not have parity with the prosecutors in Wichita.
Yeah. And so when we talk about parity, when we're doing a policy, or rather a planning study for a county, we use parity with prosecutors as a starting point for developing TIDC recommendations on how an office should be. But that's definitely part of the process of planning studies. In this case, an office that's been existing for a long time, they have their salary structure. If they tell us that a position is, they need X amount for a position, generally are going to defer to that because it's been in place and the county has approved it. So that's where we are with this one, I think.
Thank you. Much helpful to have that information going forward.
Yeah,
probably can be part of whatever salary work rate comes up with.
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion to increase Wichita County's FY24 improvement grant number 21224 for the Public Defender Mental Health Division, $12,000 to revise a total award of $194,941?
I'll make a motion.
For second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Edwin, does that give us credit for the mental health?
Yes.
Towards the $5 million?
Yes, it does. This overall grant applies to that category, and so this increase in the award.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all. So moving on to the next request, this is for the Lubbock Private Defender Office. We have a couple of items related to that program. The first one, 51 for me. I'm sorry, it's going to be before that, I believe. We have a new copy of the.
It's right before public encounter on our.
Forgot what page is it, Joe?
It is going to be my glasses.
We don't have pages on ours.
Oh, okay.
We have pages on yours.
Is this what we're looking at?
It's right next. It's.
I think you did.
Okay.
Next to Culbertson County.
You want my book?
You love it? No,
I don't know how yours got so messed up.
Yeah. I apologize for the confusion. So regarding the request from the Lubbock Private Defender Office, just as background, TIDC awarded an FY 2024 improvement grant to LPDO to operate the Lone Star, to continue to operate the Lone Star OLS defense operations. Program provides managed assigned counsel services and defense costs for OLS cases that are processed through approved centralized administration facilities. LPD has requested permission to draw from their indirect expense line in their budget to cover legal fees related to recently filed lawsuits that name LPDO among other defendants. The Texas grant management standards allow for grant funds. Grant management standards allow grant funds to be used for such a purpose with prior approval of the awarding agency. And so approving LPDO's request here doesn't change the amount of the award that's been provided. It just gives them permission to use their grant funds for this purpose. So we do have a recommendation to approve LPDO's request to draw upon their indirect expense line item in their approved grant budget for legal fees associated with recently filed lawsuits. And that is motion number 9.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve LPDO's request to draw upon the indirect expense line item in their approved grant budget for legal fees associated with recently filed lawsuit?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second if we can discuss it.
Okay, let's discuss.
I would like to abstain on this particular item and not discuss it either.
I guess my discussion would be, what is our obligation to pursue this allegation as the state agency that gave them the grant? Are we doing anything to monitor? Do we have any liability, culpability? What are we going to do?
You weren't, you want to take that one? We weren't named in this litigation.
We're not correct. We're not named in the litigation. The grant guidelines from the comptroller's office just requires, it's an allowed expense. The grant maker has to approve of the expenditure. And so that's really what we're doing here right now. So as to,
and I understand that, but my point is, any other grant we give, we monitor for compliance.
Right.
Are you doing the job? So we have an obligation as the grantor to, if we have noticed there's a problem, we may not be named in the suit, but we're actually responsible to make sure they're doing their job, are we not? Because you monitor other counties, other grants, and you say, okay, you're not performing. We may not be named in the suit, but we still have an obligation, I think, to make sure that that we're doing our due diligence and making sure we're doing the job we're supposed to as the grantor. My opinion.
Absolutely, Judge. Joel, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, Judge. So actually, we had Chair Collier had requested a review of Kinney County for about this time period, and we did a review of Kinney County, and we actually sent some issues to LPDO as well. So we did a monitoring review, and it covered the period from July 2021 through September 2021. This was just as the program was getting started, and we identified some people that fell through the cracks. And in fact, this individual was actually from like October 3rd or October 4th of 2021, just after our review. And so it was just an odd situation that it wasn't, this individual wasn't part of it. But as a result of our review, LPDO added some positions so that people wouldn't fall through the cracks. And we intend to follow up with them, but we did do an initial review at the request of Chair Collier.
And when was that done?
The actual date that we released it, I believe, was May of 2022, Judge.
I can also speak, Judge Evans, to the fact that we do monitor as a grantee that they are we are monitoring their operations in the sense that they are providing data to us regarding appointments and a lot of programmatic data, so which we review very carefully. So we are monitoring them like we monitor other grantees, and of course we have a couple of staff that are specifically dedicated to that project. So we are monitoring them, and we've also been given information that indicates that they're doing what they're supposed to do.
That, yes.
Yeah, I just
So-
think monitoring got to be more often, maybe for a while. That's my opinion. Looks like, I'll remain silent about Operation Lone Star, but I just think we need to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do as a grantor. That's my opinion. Thank you.
So I think there is
a second if you want. He's seconded
Okay,
in
oh,
order
right.
to-
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I abstained.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next item is also related to the Operation Lone Star funding. I apologize for this. We do have a replacement page because some of the figures changed from the original summary. This is the page that's titled Grant Changes to Operation Lone Star Indigent Defense Program Transition of Awarded Funds to the Organization. And you all should have a separate handout that has correct figures at the bottom of that page. We touched on this earlier in Scott's director's report. Since September of 2020, CIDC provided funds to Lubbock Private Defender Office, LPDO, which is a nonprofit organization, to serve as the defense hub for Operation Lone Star representation. LPDO provides managed assigned counsel services and contracts with private attorneys and public defender programs to make sure that the OLS defendants processed through central magistration have access to representation. The scale of OLS defense operations, as you all know from previous meetings, has grown dramatically since LPDO first stepped up to take on this role. And all parties agreed that separating the OLS operations into its own nonprofit organization made sense and was a more appropriate organizational structure for the long term. So in LPDO's application for the current biennium, the approved grant that's in place now, LPDO laid out their plan with which they've been working closely with TIDC on to separate off the OLS operations into its own distinct newly formed corporate entity. Same staff, same protocols, but it's just kind of separating off from the original Lubbock Private Defender Office, which was really only created to manage Lubbock's region cases, not a statewide program. So LPDO has been working closely with TIDC to plan for this transition of operations in the spin-off organization, and they've provided the Lubbock, the new organization is called Lone Star Defender Office, I believe, right? Lone Star Defender Office, and LSDO, and it's provided TIDC with all required documentation regarding eligibility for the newly formed organization to receive a grant, including nonprofit status, articles of incorporation, organizational bylaws, board membership, etc. So the original grant that's currently in place that the board approved, which was to LPDO for the entire biennium, the 24-25 biennium, the current award was $37,681,149. And that goes all the way through August 31st of 2025. So what we have here are two requests, one from LPDO to modify that grant to make it end at the end of this calendar year, 12/31/23. The term changes, and then the amount of the award changes to basically cover 4 months of operation from September through the end of this calendar year. And that amount is and this is based on the approved budget, is $6,716,063. So step one is to modify the current grant to LPDO to shorten it to basically be over at the end of this calendar year and to be reduced in amount to cover just 4 months of operation. Step two is a request from the newly formed organization for the balance of the original award. That amount is $30,965,086. And with a grant term to begin January 1st and extend all the way through August of 2025. So basically the overall award of the grants is the same as the currently approved and in place grant that is held by LPDO as of today. And so we do have we work closely with them. We have the staff recommendation with two motions that would effectuate the plan. And those are motions 9, or 10 and 11.
Can we take them together?
I think they're separate motions. Judge.
Okay.
I can read them.
Okay.
So motion number 10 is to modify LPDO's grant number OLS 24001 to reduce the award to $6,716,716,063 and end the term December 31st, 2023.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next motion is number 11 to award Lone Star Defender Office at FY 24-25 grant of $30,965,086 with a term of January 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2025 to continue OLS defense.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all for all of that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over. We're almost done with grants, so I can turn over to Doriana for page 53 for some of us improvement grant. Stepped up. She stepped out, so I'll take care of that. So the next item and last item for the grant session, thank you all for your attention to all this, is to approve the issuance of the request for applications for our next grant cycle. Each year we do this, and the improvement grant divides program-specific funds, unlike formula funding, and allows counties to apply for a competitive process. I'm not proposing any substantive changes from last year's RFA. There's a link here to the RFA that's currently issued, and we're basically just going to update it and send it out. Of course, issuing the RFA doesn't obligate us to make any awards. It's just an invitation for counties to come to us with proposals. And so we do have a motion number 12 to direct staff to issue the 2025 improvement grant RFA pending reformatting and edits for clarity.
Your motion?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second, and it's just to send it out, is that correct?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Before we go on, this is one of the projects the external grant review team worked on. I just want to say, if they're not here, how much I appreciate, how much we all appreciate the work that Edwin and everybody who's behind the scenes did. That the external grant review team is all volunteers, and I don't know how we would do this without them. So we really appreciate it. Right.
That concludes the grant. I believe we're on to fiscal monitoring update from Deborah.
Good morning, all. I believe on pages 54 to 58 of the meeting notebook, we can find the monitoring report. Now, this just outlines activity for the new fiscal year, which started on September 1. And just to kind of summarize what's all in there is I've traveled with the policy team to Ector County and then to Lubbock County. I conducted the fiscal part of these on-site reviews when the policy team did their stuff. 2 initial reports were issued. One was the joint report for Smith County, and the other was to Travis County. And Edwin and I are currently working with Travis County officials to accept their corrective action plan to finalize their report. And then a final report was issued on Midland County. 4 initial reports are currently in the vetting stages. Those are Henderson, Upshur, Knox, and Erath counties. And then the other thing is I reviewed the comprehensive annual financial statements and single audit reports submitted by Kerr County and Matagorda County. No issues were noted by the outside auditors. And the only thing I want to mention is that Kerr County included their TIDC funds as the major program in their state single audit, and no compliance issues were noted there. And the last activity, and it's mentioned a couple of times, was the Indigent Defense Expenditure Report was due November 1st. So October was pretty much dedicated to answering a lot of questions from county auditors and treasurers from across the state. I assisted Crystal on a webinar she presented because of the CPS component that's on the IDR report now. And currently we are all working to do the desk reviews to try to get those knocked out on that. So that, concludes my report.
That's good. Thank you. Any questions? Oh, you should finish.
I'm sorry, any questions? Find anything? All right, that concludes our report.
Thank you, Judge Rivera. Let's move on to the improvement team report. What's the next, please?
Thank you, Judge. Hey, everybody. So for the improvement team this past quarter, we've been busy at work. We've had Operation Lone Star as a special projects that we have team members Linda Gonzalez and Bill Cox that work on that together, obviously with working closely with Edwin, Chris Bound and the grants team there. As Executive Director Scott Ehlers mentioned, the Texas Rio Grande Public Defenders is opening a new office to handle felony OLS cases down in the Eagle Pass area. Moving on past that, we've also done some more planning studies for new potential offices, one for a regional out of Wharton County and one for an expansion out of the existing office in Bowie to make it a regional office. We also have some other planning studies in the works there as well. We also have had some technical assistance opportunities this past quarter, going to Victoria County as the hub county for the Crossroads Regional Public Defender office that we've previously funded. So we're working with them to get that office up and running. And then also Grayson County is running the North Texas Managed Assigned Counsel program. And so we had an implementation meeting with them this past quarter. Right now I'm going to turn it over to Bill Cox to talk a little bit more about a program that you'll heard and you'll just funded for the next few years, Fiddle, and then also JTIP. Bill.
Good morning again. Fiddle, on our current classes, the 3.0 and 4.0 class had their fall returner weekend in San Antonio, October 5th through 7th. They will be in Austin this April. We had excellent attendance the returner weekends with all but 2 attorneys there, and the 2 attorneys who weren't there had literally just finished being in trial the literally day before the class was going to begin. Our staff also reached out to John Hunter Smith, TCDLA's president, at the request of Representative Smith, and we're incorporating his feedback on outreaching to new MAC attorneys and revitalizing Fiddle's mentor program as we look forward to the 5th iteration of the program. And then we'd like to thank the board for authorizing the next Fiddle class. And we will be working closely with Gideon's Promise, Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association, and the Harris Public Defender's Office to complete the migration, as I spoke about, moving Fiddle to be more and more Texas-based to be more sustainable in the future. We also are continuing to work with TCDLA on the Juvenile Training Immersion Program. This grew out of a grant that TIDC received from the governor's office 3 years ago now to train a cadre of attorneys in the adult learning model used by the National Juvenile Defender Training Center. For this year's presentation, Ruben Castaneda, the Chief Public Defender for Travis's Juvenile Office, will be leading a presentation with other members of his team on juvenile search and seizure matters in April. Kristen.
Thanks, Bill. Next up on our report out, we have our recruitment initiative that we've been working on. As I'm sure you members know, we are struggling with having enough attorneys to take these types of cases across the state in all of our jurisdictions. And so one thing that we've done this past quarter was we held public defense days at Texas law schools. And we hosted them at 7 different law schools, and we did this in collaboration with the Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association. As a result, I've got a few stats for y'all. We had 12 different public defender or managed assigned counsel offices represented that participated as part of those programs. We had 26 different public defenders or private assigned counsel that also participated. As a result, we were able to make connections with and present to almost 230 law students across Texas law schools. And besides the public defense days themselves, we also had various other recruitment event participation, including practice panels, public service expo, public service tabling events, advocate days, and also just meeting with some criminal defense clinic students. You can also see some of those things listed in the trainings and presentations section that's a little bit lower. So we've been working on that. That is something we're going to continue to work on and work towards as we continue to help improve public defense here in the state. In the last part of the report, you'll see our committee work continues. And we do have 2 publications forthcoming, the Fair Defense Laws and upcoming very shortly. So that's where we are.
I would like to congratulate you on that. That was a good idea, and I wish we would have been doing that before now. So congratulations.
Yeah, if I could chime in here too, I got to go to the University of Houston events and the Thurgood Marshall events, and the amount of enthusiasm from the students that were there was infectious, and I was just really impressed, particularly with Thurgood. It was a packed room, and you know, my plan is to continue these public defense days, also move it into talking about family representation as well, because we do have serious attorney shortages throughout the state. And so we need to be building that next generation of attorneys to get into this work.
Thanks, Judge.
I want to ask one other question to Scott. Scott, you don't think that those 2 could be presented together?
Yeah, I think they could. I think that we already have some plans going on for the family representation into next year. I don't know the extent to which we have decided to marry them, criminal and civil. Kristen, do you want to speak more to that?
Sure thing.
Well, I was just going to say, you're going to get better at it as you go along. Just an idea. Just an idea.
And we're going to start trying to pilot the family representation side of version, if you will, of public defense days this spring. So we're doing a little pilot program with a handful of schools there. It does, from law schools' perspectives, criminal defense work and any kind of family representation kind of work are generally different clinics, different students, different student organizations, different professors might be involved. So while there is a way maybe to marry some of those at times, other times you're going to have students who are in very different tracks that are looking for that interest. But I think there's definitely a place for both of those types of events, Judge.
Yeah. You're going to get better at it. Thank you for that, for all your work.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? All right, thank you, Kristen. We'll move on to Mr. Burnham, policy and stance.
Turning it over to Bill. Thanks, Mr. Bowman. Continuing on to your on-numbered pages, we're going to talk about attorney caseloads and attorney practice time reports. As part of
No, I'm just trying to tell me what page.
the one that looks like this.
I'm descriptive, the one that looks like this.
Very good.
So every year, auditors and treasurers, as I mentioned, have to submit expenditure reports to TIDC. Part of this report now includes the amount paid to each attorney and the number of cases for which each of these attorneys disposed cases. As far as appointed caseloads, most attorneys do not have excessive caseloads. The median caseload was, for appointed caseload, was 34% of our weighted caseload guidelines. That's 128 felonies or some combination of that, or 226 misdemeanors or 31 appeals. However, we are seeing an increase in the number of people above that level. In 2019, about 15% of appointed attorneys had had caseloads above the weighted caseload guidelines. This year it was 21%. As to people with high appointed caseloads, in 2019, I believe there was 45 attorneys that had caseloads more than 3 times the weighted caseload guidelines, and that number has jumped to 87. So I think we're seeing an increase in the number of people with high appointed caseloads. And I don't quite know what's causing this. Part of this may be related to COVID, where there were a lot of cases in the pipeline that are finally being disposed now, but I don't know if that's the primary driver. As to attorney practice time reports, every year, attorneys taking appointments have to submit the percent of their practice time devoted to criminal, juvenile delinquency, and now CPS cases. Across the state, The median amount of time devoted to criminal and juvenile delinquency cases was 61% of an attorney's practice time. And so it's a very significant amount, even though generally the number of cases they receive isn't very high. We have a lot of trouble getting attorneys to report. We partner with different groups, and that's the reason we are as successful as we are. The Public Policy Research Institute at Texas A&M sends reminders to attorneys who have agreed to receive reminder emails. They also send notices to counties. Some of you may have received these notices, and it lists which attorneys have received payment for cases and which of those attorneys have submitted their practice time reports. And when counties receive this, they tend to get on those attorneys, say you need to enter your report. Without this kind of partnership, we would have probably a very low rate of attorneys that submit the reports. Right now, about 63%, or as of November 21st, about 63% of attorneys who have received payment had submitted their reports. That number will go up a little bit now. I had mentioned caseloads. I have a couple tables. On the next page, I list, and the page after that, the top caseloads from FY23 and FY22. Keep in mind, these are preliminary results, so there might be a few changes here and there. But what used to happen is the attorneys that have the highest caseloads were all public defenders. This year, that's changed. There are a few public defenders, but these are largely private attorneys. And this table lists all of those attorneys who had 4 times or more of the weighted caseload guidelines. And there are quite a few of them. The highlighted ones were on both the FY22 and the FY23 list. And if there's no questions, we can go on to attorney payments. This is where we usually have a few gasps in the room. Because most attorneys who take appointments don't make a lot of money. In FY 2019, the median amount was $22,000 and change, and that's gone up to $31,000. So it's not a significant amount. But some attorneys do make a lot of money. This year, we had for the second time, we've had someone make over $1 million in appointments. I have tables again for FY 23 and FY 22. I used to cut it off at $300,000, but now I have the cutoff at $500,000. For the first few years we created these tables, you'd often not have anyone make above $500,000, but now that's the cutoff to be on this list.
So can you go back up to the weighted caseload again of the transfer one back?
Yes, Judge.
So those individuals are taking, I mean, is there anything that we need to do about these? I mean, it seems like we just talk and say, yeah, they're taking too many cases, and then we just kind of move on. Is there anything that the TIDC can do in regards to anything on that? Are we charged with doing that? Do we want to let the regional presiding judge in that area know? Is there anything that we need to do on that?
Well, just in terms of one grant that is directly addressing it, you'll notice that some of these Dallas public defenders are on here, and some of them are in the misdemeanor division. As I mentioned earlier, one of the grants that you all approved back a year ago, June, cut that in half. So that's by the time they're implementing that, like when we look at this next year from Dallas, that we are doing something about that through one of our grants. I just wanted to mention that. But your question is bigger than that. So
the commission does have the authority to set caseload standards. Statutorily, that is one area in which you have authority to do something about. But there are other things in terms of like notification. We could let the judges know, about, right now we don't do, frankly, a lot of reporting out besides this meeting about this report, for example. So, we could let the judges know, like, hey, FYI, you have these attorneys who are hitting some level that we could agree on, and let them know about, the fact that they have an excessive number of cases. That is one thing we could do.
You want to do something there? I mean, I'd love anybody else's input on that. If anyone else is not concerned about it, then I'll just,
Is that assuming the judges don't know? I mean, they know who bring kolaches in the morning.
Well, I don't know that, I think in some places maybe they do, but in a lot of places, I don't think that there is a comprehensive viewing or analysis of how many cases any particular lawyer is taking, during a year or, past month or whatnot. So,
Well, they know, and I mean, I get that, they know the brain collection, right? But they also know, when you see an individual in your court, right, often. But if I am not knowing that he's in the other 9 courts as much as he's in my court,
right,
then I don't really know that.
A lot of this data comes from the auditor's office, so it's not coming from the judiciary. So they, when we collect this data, you report out on it, the kind of results are not sort of cycled back to the judiciary in any comprehensive way.
It's usually published in the newspaper.
Is it now?
In Houston, it's
It's in the newspaper?
yeah,
In the Chronicle, yeah, they do that. I expect there are going to be maximum caseloads in Harris County in the next couple of years. Our presiding judge, Diaba Bell, the former employee of mine, I know it's her mission to get the judges to agree to something. The money part doesn't upset me that much, but the fact that people are doing volume business to get there is a problem.
Well, and that was my point. We all have, I mean, I'm an active judge, right? But, we have all individuals that, it's like a cattle farm, it just keeps going in. And I don't know if those individuals, are representing those individuals to the best of their ability. They've got 26 appearances and, I mean, maybe the judges need to know, right? I mean, I would want to know if it's in my jurisdiction.
That might be a problem, because look at the jurisdictions where this is primarily happening. There's a large jurisdiction with multiple courts. And not so much, you don't see so much of it in the rural areas, except for attorneys who practice in multiple counties, which once again is a lack of information for the judges.
And
What do you think? Do you think the judges need to know? Don't care?
Oh, they don't.
They know?
know. Yeah.
They all know.
They all know.
Then I'll sit down.
Do you think it would be helpful though for something to come from TIDC, say, to let the judges know? I guess
Yes.
coming from a different angle, right? It's not,
Yes.
I think it would be good to let the judges know that TIDC knows.
All the time. So, it's been put out there in front of them.
We're not just assuming.
No, they know. They absolutely know. There's just have never been a cohesive, and it's mostly, if we're talking about felonies and district judges, there has not been a cohesive group to agree on any remedy. So we talked about managed assigned counsel in the felony courts. They, in theory, they agree with that, but they never voted to do that, to come back to TIDC, get a grant to expand the MAC that we have for misdemeanors. So it's really just a lack of will at this point to actually get something done. But I believe we're getting to the point where something will be done in the next couple of years.
Well, do you think, I mean, maybe they know what was paid in Harris County, but they may not know how that compares to the rest of the state either.
I know, I don't know that would affect them.
Okay, I think we'll let it go.
Well, has the misdemeanor MAC program improved caseloads, the
To
distribution?
some degree, and they haven't met CIDC standard yet. They're aiming for that probably by in another year, because the problem was they did this all at once. They suddenly had lower caseloads, so they needed more lawyers, and it kind of all blew up. But they're getting there, and I think the next year, they'll be able to competently institute those caseloads. Yeah, and we're growing in that area. We're taking more misdemeanors, so it'll all even out in the end.
Do you want us to continue on, or do we have more discussion? I don't know.
That sounds good.
Okay. Well, I guess continuing on to our indigent defense plan submission and review process on the next page after these tables. in every 2 years in the odd numbered years, by November the 1st, the counties have to approve all of their indigent defense plans. And every county will have at least a criminal and a juvenile plan, sometimes a separate felony and misdemeanor plans. And all of these have to be approved in order to receive in order to not have a grant hold. As of November the 1st, 160 counties had all successfully approved their plans. We've sent some reminders. Prior to November the 1st, we also sent out instructions, and this included instructions for CPS plans, which are relatively new. But after this reminder, as of this report, we had 209 counties fully approved all of their plans, and since then there's been a few more. I'm expecting that within the next couple of weeks, this will drop considerably. And for those that are left, when they receive a grant hold notice, that changes things. We are ahead of where we were 2 years ago by about 20 counties. And so I'm pretty confident that we're in a good place, even though the number is still a little bit high. I guess continuing on to the next page for the policy monitoring update. Since the August meeting, we've issued 3 policy monitoring reports and we've received 4 responses. What's listed on this page is a little out of date, but I'd like to highlight 2 different counties. One of them was Travis County. In 2019, we issued an initial report with 5 findings. And on this follow-up review, Travis County has addressed them all, and I'd just like to congratulate them for all the great work done. So that review is closed. The other issue we have is Willacy County. We issued a report, but we did not get a response as to how the county was going to address the findings we made in the report. If that happens, our administrative rules require that we send a certified letter to the county noting that the formula grant payments will be withheld unless we receive a written response within 10 days. I've sent an email and tried to talk to the county about this. I'm hopeful that we get something, but the certified mail is basically in the mail, and I don't know that we'll get a response before those 10 days have expired. We've never quite gotten to this point before, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen. I don't know that anyone there is opposed to this. My impression is they're somewhat unorganized. Maybe in January, I'll have to just drive down there and see if we can get everybody together. But in a lot of small counties, you get instances where no one ever gets into a room together just to have coffee or anything. So it's very hard to have a group response as to how they'll address a finding that covers more than one entity. So with that, that's the highlights of our activity. As far as upcoming reviews, we have several staff that are going to go up to Amarillo in January for some nice bright weather, and they're going to do reviews in Randall and Potter counties, and then we'll also go to Waller County for a follow-up. And then I'd like to finally mention one thing about Maverick and Zavala counties. We've had a long history of monitoring reviews in those counties, and we've had limited effectiveness in addressing the findings that we've made. And so last year, the PNS committee and the grant approved for TIDC staff to ask for monthly data showing the number of appointments that are made in each court and the number of requests that they've received. It's taken a while to get data from the county. We've now gotten it from every court. It's not all up to date, and we've gotten another court to respond that's not listed in here since the meeting notebook was put together. But generally, people are working with us. We've made a few visits to the county. We made a visit in June and another in September. And then Ashley and I are going to go down there again on Monday to talk to people about how to get requests from the magistrates in the jail to the courts. And I think there's a little bit of a breakdown there. And we're hoping that this addresses a lot of the problems that we've seen. And so if there are no other questions, that completes the policy report. I think we're ready for complaints. I don't know if Natasha is available. Okay, I'm sorry.
For complaints, we received 26 between August 15th of this year and November 27th. Of those, 5 are currently being investigated, 5 have been referred to local officials, and 16 were addressed with stock referral letters. The most common issues during this group were failing to visit clients, our attorneys failing to communicate with clients and updating them on their cases, and appointment of counsel issues. We had 3 notable complaints that we wanted to bring to your attention. The first one, which is still pending, involved a defendant who requested appointed counsel, indicated that he is currently receiving public benefits, which would qualify under the Uvalde Indigent Defense Plan. However, his request was denied. We've reached out to the judge hearing the case, as well as to the local administrative judge by mail twice, and left voicemails earlier this month and haven't received the responses of yet.
Let me stop you right there for a minute. It sounds like the kind of thing that sometimes we notify the regional PJ about. Y'all want to do that? It's been long enough that we really should receive a response. What do you think, Joe?
But that's what I was just saying to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, for whatever it's worth, I mean, if you don't get any response and then the regional judge calls down there, or staff calls down there, then they kind of, pay a little bit more attention. So for which county?
That's the 6th region.
Yeah.
Is that Judge Abel still?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scott, you think that sounds like a good idea?
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I think it's a super idea. That's what I just was telling him on the Willis. I'm like, we're not getting a response. Call me.
Yeah.
No.
Judge, do you have a recommendation in terms of, I don't know, how long we should wait before reaching out to the PJ?
Well, I don't know how long it takes, but I would just, if it's starting to be a problem, then just, reach out.
All
So
right.
on this one, there's been 2 letters and a voicemail that hasn't been returned.
Just for the month of November.
When, I'm sure.
You know what you might want to do? You might want to CC.
If I may, I think I can provide some clarification. When the first letter was sent via email, it CC'd the administrative judge, as well as the judge, as well as his court coordinator. The second letter also was sent to the local administrative judge, the court coordinator, and the judge. And then the first letter was sent in August. The second written, hard copy letter was sent in September. And then I left a voicemail in early November to the judge himself. And so, yes, I would welcome suggestions and guidance on how long to wait and how to receive a response.
I think it would be appropriate to reach out to Judge Abels. The local administrative judge would be the district judge, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that puts her in a really bad predicament because the county judge is the budget man, the money man. So I think the PJ should be done pretty much immediately.
Okay.
Copied.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know. Anybody else have an opinion? It's hard when you have those small jurisdictions because I'm a little familiar with their situation.
Well, I live in one myself. I'm acutely familiar with their situation. On the other hand, I think it's not good, precedential or otherwise, to let this go on for this long.
Totally agree.
Since it started in August, or at least the first email went out in August, why don't we send a letter directly to the dual PJ saying, here's what the complaint was, here's what we've done, we haven't heard back since the voicemail, and then ask for this Judge Abel's help, or ask if he has any recommendations or something like that.
I can do that.
I think it should be done on everything. I think right now we have a problem, the problem area, right? But I think the regional judges would like to know if there's gonna be any type of issues, and we don't want to be brought in at the very end where we have to try to fix it instead of preventing it. And so my suggestion was, or is, if as soon as something, we're supposed to have something back in a week, and it's been 2 weeks and it's not there at that time, and you're doing your reminder stuff, as soon as you have to do reminders, I mean, don't kill us with, a letter on every single thing, but when it gets at the end, when it's a problem, CC the regional presiding judge, our office, because then, I mean, these LA DJs, I get it, right? Everybody's busy and it's on somebody else's issue. But then all of a sudden, it's kind of like, wait till your father gets home. You know what I mean? Like, we know that there's a problem, and then they'll figure that out. So I think through emails, we should be notified.
Are you not copying the regional PJ from the get-go?
When I send my initial response, I do copy. No, I don't copy the regional.
You do the local administrative judge.
Correct.
Yeah. May I ask a question? When you investigate these types of complaints, do you go and look at the data that's being reported by that jurisdiction, both to the TIDC as well as the OCA on court-appointed attorneys, a number of misdemeanor cases, whatever is appropriate, to see if it looks like there's more of a problem than you think? Do you look at that information? Because I think that's really relevant.
I agree. Since I am new to complaints, and this is not an excuse, but that has occurred to me.
Yeah.
To start doing that because I'm really bothered.
Yeah.
In addition to all of this, I'm very bothered by the sheer number of complaints we receive about attorneys.
Mm-hmm. That's a different problem, but a big problem. You're right. But I just think you might want to look back at the data that's been reported by the jurisdictions, and I wouldn't just look at the current year. I'd go back a couple or three.
Yes,
of course, COVID's going to be weird, but
yeah, you have that dip in COVID, but it's easy enough to suss out a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not forget that this is not a job that we particularly ever wanted to take on. We answer complaints and we've got a format, but our staff is primarily doing other things. So we don't want to.
I agree, but we are responsible, as Judge Evans stated, to monitor, and we do give these jurisdictions money, and we've discussed this on multiple occasions as to whether there should be consequences when jurisdictions are not complying with the law and the regulations that we have.
Well, at this point, why don't we go ahead and suggest that the letter be sent on this complaint, start copying the regional PJ on everything that goes, and if you want to start looking at the data to see if that's helpful, sure.
Well, just when you get a complaint.
Right.
Copying the
I'm going to refrain for right now. And maybe we can revisit this in March.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we stop in the meantime and y'all hash it out?
Yeah.
I did want some clarification on the regional PJ notification. It sounds like just when we get to the point where, maybe not on the initial notification, but like when we get to the point where there hasn't been a response, we're looking for a response, then CC the regional PJ at that point to say, hey, we haven't heard from you on this complaint. Could you?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea then, right? I mean, it's kind of like you forgot to pay your light bill and then they remind you and you go, oh, sorry, oops. You know what I mean?
Or they didn't do anything.
Right.
This point.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Sound good? Thank you, Judge. I love you.
And then we have note that
BJs are gonna hate me. You're listening, sorry.
we have two others to note that were resolved on the initial outreach. One was an attorney who is not on the appointment list that was appointed out of Hays County. When we reached out, the court allowed that attorney to withdraw and appointed new counsel. The last one was a concern from a family member on a pre-indictment detainee who had requested counsel 3 weeks prior to contacting us. Counsel hadn't been appointed. When we reached out, counsel was appointed, so the complaint was resolved. And that's it for complaints.
And that's it for policy and standing.
Thank you, thank you. All right. Family protection representation report.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. Closing it out with a big, exciting report. Well, a lot of exciting things going on in family representation. My report today is going to mostly focus on data collection, but I am excited to have a staff member coming on to start looking at lots of cool things in the future. So we do collect data through the Indigent Defense Expenditure Report. We do the CPS side of it. As of the writing of this report, so that was back on November 26th, we had 221 counties had submitted a report for expenditures or appointments on the IDER. We're never going to have 254 counties reporting because there are some counties that legitimately have no expenses for family representation because they're just very small and may not have any cases. But we are working with the counties to get those reports in, and that number is higher now, and it will be higher in the future. We did do a training for county auditors and treasurers, like Deborah mentioned, explaining how to report appointments and different things back on September 19th. It was recorded and it's been provided to anyone who's asked for it. As for what's been reported as of November 26th, we had about $54.5 million reported in expenses. These are preliminary totals, and we do expect those numbers to go up. This is less than what was reported last year, but I do expect the number to go up once all the counties have reported their information. I will note that DFPS data for fiscal year 2023 is not in yet, so I don't know how many children are in custody at this point, but the numbers have been trending downwards with each year. So that could also be contributing to decreases in spending. We also collect judicial plans. So similar to the indigent defense plans, we collect plans on the family representation side of things. This was part of the first phase of the new website launch this year. So we launched a completely brand new website to start collecting this data. As of November 26th, we had 165 counties had submitted and approved their plan. That number has shot way up since I checked yesterday afternoon, and it was in the 190 range. And we have over 200 counties who have submitted a plan but not yet approved it. So that should be very close to 254 really soon. We did send instructions about the new plan, and I did a recording webinar for judges on how to use the new plan, and has been also sent to any judges who need the recording. And we've been getting good feedback that the website is pretty easy to use. Nobody's been real angry that we changed things. The other, in the data collection world, so this is new this year. For the first time this year, attorneys had to start reporting their practice time on not just court appointments for criminal and juvenile cases, but also for child protection cases. And considering this was brand new and we sort of started letting people know in late September, early October that this report was due, as of the writing of this report, we had 995 attorneys had reported practice time on child protection appointments. So not bad. We don't know the exact number of how many attorneys take these cases because we don't yet do any kind of attorney level detailed reporting. I've heard estimates ranging from 3,000 to 1,800, so it's kind of all over the place. But 995 is not so bad considering it's our first year doing it. We did work with the Child Protection Law Section and Children's Commission to get information out on their listservs. All the child protection law judges were also notified of this, and they were helpful in getting the word out. And that's it for my report for today.
I may have missed it, you said this, but did you know there are new statistics out from OCA on cases filed and cases disposition? Have you seen that?
I have seen that. And so in March, when we have all of these numbers more finalized, both myself and Dr. Sarah, we have lots of cool plans to compare with those numbers, DFPS numbers, and start getting a good.
Next meeting. Next meeting, March.
End of March?
So we all send out email.
Yep, we can send out, a scheduling email to see when y'all are available.
Any new business? Any public comment?
Mr. Burkhardt.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Judge. I had just two things. First, I want to say thanks to Ward and staff for all the great work. Texas for years has led the nation in building public defender offices, and now with things, I'm so excited to hear about the public defense days. And between that, the FIDDLE program, things like the CAPROC PD clinical program with Texas Tech, I think Texas is increasingly leading the nation when it comes to building a public defender pipeline. It's a very big deal. The second thing I want to say, when I look at those numbers, that high caseloads and the high payments, a lot of that is driven by Harris County. Mr. Bunnan and I are on a committee down there in Harris County, and we're hoping to rein in some of that. So thanks for all the work.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Any further discussion or comment? And we are adjourned. Thank you for coming. Y'all have a wonderful day.